Okay, let's get going, and if people join as we get going, then more the merrier. So, welcome to the first webinar that She Plays Football have run. Welcome to you all. Thank you for sparing a bit of time on your Sunday evening. As I mentioned, we've got sort of 150 or so people that have registered for the webinar, so welcome to you all. It's really fantastic that you want to hear from us and from Cori about how we can help your daughter and you to assist her with reaching her full potential in football, which is what this webinar is all about. Um, Before we get too far into it, it'd be good for us to really introduce ourselves to you. So I'm Paul Vennard. I'm the founder of She Plays Football and a parent of a football playing daughter. My daughter's called Emily. She's started playing when she was 6. She's now 17. For the last 11 years, I've been daddy taxi. I've been parent coach, advisor, mentor, and the person she gets most frustrated with. That's my role as a parent. And I started She Plays Football because I wanted to help her to be the best player that she could be, and realised that my footballing ability was pretty limited, pretty much to five-a-side. I went off and did the UEFA C badge, which used to be called the FA Level 1 coaching badge, which I was hoping, because I was fully employed, would give me a manual of how to do it and how to help her, but it doesn't. So then I started looking at other places to kind of fill that void, and I just couldn't find anything. There's nothing really created by women for girls to really help them on their journey within the game. And that's really why Cori and I set up She Plays Football, to fill that gap between the team environment they should be playing in, your daughter will be playing in, and um, the parent need to support their daughter on their journey. So we've created She Plays Football with a load of content, such as training drills, training programs, information on nutrition, the pathway, all sorts of things, really to help you as a parent to support your daughter, and for your daughter to help herself to train. So that's me. Over to you, Cori.
Great intro, by the way, Paul. Hi, guys. I'm Cori. Welcome to the webinar. I am the technical director of She Plays Football, and my job is to make a load of lovely drills for you to enjoy and ultimately develop from. Bit of my background, I started playing football for my primary school, actually, and I'm old, so that was many moons ago, and girls really were not allowed to play football when I played, but the PE teacher said, okay, fine, you can play. So that's where it snowballed. I was lucky enough to live in an area where Bob Boulder did coaching in the community for Charlton at the time. And I just went along one day, and at 11, I managed to get signed by Charlton. And it, again, just snowballed from there. I played for Charlton until I was 14. I then got a little scout by Arsenal, I guess. And then, yeah, I joined their academy when I was 16. I moved away. I live in Ramsgate, and I moved away to North London when I was 16. And the rest is history. I was so lucky, so lucky. I got to win the FA Cup, the league, played in the Champions League, won the Champions League. I had a tremendous career. And it all happened because I had a supportive parents. My mum and dad were unreal, and they just allowed me to go and fulfill my dream, and they supported me whilst I did that. So I decided to hang up my boots and thought, well, I really miss the environment. I miss coaching, I guess. So I thought, well, I'm going to dip my toe into coaching. So then that just snowballed, and I managed to become an A licensed coach pretty quick. I think there's only a handful of us. There's probably more now, but when I got mine, there was only a handful of us that are A licensed coaches. And yeah, I coached at some real cool clubs. I coached in boys' academies, but I thought I need to give something back to what I had. I want to coach in the girls' environment. So my club I've just left now was London City Lionesses. I was at the first team as assistant coach, and we managed to finish second and third. And obviously this year they got promoted. So I think the foundations that we did worked well. And that's me to date, I guess. I love coaching. I love being in this environment, and I feel like with my playing background and what I've coached so far, I think it puts us in a nice little position to set up She Plays Football and give your daughters absolutely everything that I have absorbed throughout my footballing career and coaching career.
Thanks, Cori. So just before we get into the content, it'd be good to we've just got a couple of polls that we're going to start on screen, and the first one is really just to get a sense of where everyone's based. And the reason we're kind of asking that is because we've got some content within this webinar that's quite English FA specific, and if you are if you're based in Scotland, Wales, or Ireland, it will be slightly different. So we just want to acknowledge that if it's required. So I'm just going to start this poll. So if you'd like to sort of just give us an idea of where you're based, that'd be much appreciated. Once we've got most people answering, then we'll end the poll and show you the results. But it's pretty, it's all over the country actually, which is great to hear and see. So let me just end that poll. Looks like everyone's completed it, or pretty much everyone. So as you can see, we're based. Everyone that's on the call is based all over the country, which is great to see. So welcome to everyone. The second poll that I'm going to fire up is actually for your daughters. If your daughter's sitting next to you listening to us talk, this is her opportunity to tell us a little bit about kind of what what part of football does she enjoy the most. So I'm just going to fire that poll up as well. Right, pretty much everyone's done that now, so I'll just end that poll and share the results. So, encouraging, there's pretty much most people are looking at, the social aspect of it, of playing with their friends, learning new skills, which is exactly what we want to hear at She Plays Football. Ultimately, it's about development and having fun whilst you do it. And the outcome of hopefully the effort that you put in around learning new skills and playing with your team is that you win more games. So that's really great. Thanks for sharing that. Much appreciated. Right, we'll get into the content now. Really, this first section is for Cori to sort of share what she sees as setting players apart from or the players that rise to the kind of top. What do they sort of show, and the habits and behaviours that they show, just so you get a sense of what you should focus on as a player. Throughout this, I'm not going to say very much, believe it or not. Cori's doing most of the talking. What I'm going to try and chip in with is a parent perspective of what Cori's saying and what I've experienced. Cori trained my daughter for 3 years or so. So I got to know Cori and her methods and things quite well. And I was always looking at it from a parent perspective. So hopefully I'll chip in with something that makes it a bit more relevant to you as parents. But Cori's going to talk about all of these aspects. So
thank you. So I'm just going to talk about this slide, and it's about elite habits, and obviously what sets aside a typical player to an elite player. And there's loads of contributing factors, let's face it. So we're just going to touch on a few. I think when I coach and I coach elite performers, We always have performance goals for those elite players. I I'll use myself as an example. When I played football, albeit I had a really successful career, I was so slow. I was so slow. So my performance goal was always to become quicker. Okay. So I had to make a plan. How am I going to achieve this goal? It had to be clear. It had to be achievable, and I had to consistently work at it. So I thought to myself, okay, I need to get quicker. So I need to work more in the gym. I need to become more powerful in my legs, stronger in my legs. So that is exactly what I went away and did. And it was over a long period. It was over years. It was probably still now I'm working on it. But it's performance goals that are achievable. And it's really key that you have those. You have those. You have a clear idea of what you want to achieve, what elite athletes look like, what they're doing day in, day out. And it's, performance goals. Try and write some down and see if you can achieve them. I think a key one as well for elite athletes is discipline, and you probably hear it so often. What sets elite athletes apart is their desire to train when no one else is training, or when their friends are gaming, or their friends are down the park, whatever they're doing, socializing. I think elite athletes have that habit and that mindset that I have to be disciplined if I want to achieve what I want to achieve. And that may be playing in the WSL, it may be playing for my country, it may be playing, I don't know, at the highest league that I could possibly achieve in my career. I have to be disciplined. Okay. And that doesn't mean to say that you can't go out with your friends, because there's a time and a place for that. There really, really is. But I think if we can be super, super disciplined when you really want to achieve what you want to achieve, I think you'll be surprised and you will achieve it. I think come in hand with that as well is managing health. And that's not just physical health as a footballer, that's also mental well-being. And I think if we can manage that and prioritize physical health and mental well-being with our nutrition, with our hydration, with our sleep and our stress management, and that's tough because I coached at an under 16 level, and we're talking about exams, we're becoming women, you've got contributing factors outside of football. Am I going to become a pro? Because if I don't get into the under 21s, what do my next steps look like? And I just think if you can manage that in the best way possible, and it may be that you learn how to manage that by maybe reading a book or going out for a run or using She Plays Football to work on a particular movement that you need to work on or a skill that you need to work on. But I think that's super, super important, super important. And like probably most elite athletes, consistency is key. If you consistently work at a high level, consistently work at the brilliant basics, consistently work towards your goal, and that's becoming a top athlete, you will get there. That's the reality. It may take a long time and a long path, but if you consistently work at something and you put in the time, you put in the hours, you put in the dedication, you put in the discipline, you create performance goals, I think that is what sets elite players apart massively. I think having a continuous learning and development outlook as well. I think so many players think that they are the complete package, and actually you've got to have a growth mindset to understand that I don't think anyone is the complete package. I'm certainly not as a coach. I'm learning all day, every day, from coaches, from parents, from players, from other sports as well. It's super, super key. So yeah, I think continuously learning and developing is really, really key as well. And having self-awareness. I think that is what, again, sets elite athletes apart from grassroots. I think if you have an understanding of your strengths, of your weaknesses, of areas that you can improve, of your super strengths, I think that will really, really help you within your journey within football. I think that's it.
I mean, I think that point at the bottom about staying coachable. So, from a parent perspective, um, what I've learned from working with Cori and when she was training my daughter was actually what every coach wants to see is that your daughter takes on instruction. So we're going to work on something, a skill, movement, a playing pattern, or whatever it may be as a coach, the coach wants to see that replicated in training, that you try to do the things that they're coaching, and in a game environment. Now, the reality is, not every time you try something is going to come off. Most of the time, you're going to fail at it. But being able to go, at least I tried, and the coach will see that. They want to see that you're trying to get better, that you're trying to apply some of the things they're teaching you, and yeah, don't be afraid to fail on it. If it comes off, the first time you try it, one out of 5 times, it came off once. Brilliant. Don't think it failed the other 4. You managed to achieve it once, and the coach will have spotted that. So, stay coachable, listen to what they're saying, try to apply it, and you'll reap the rewards. What I did with Emily was that we said a couple of nights a week that we'd just go up to the garden for an hour, and had a bit of a plan about what she wanted to work on. But that did change. When I first started doing it, as I said, I literally just used to put a goal up and some cones out, and she'd dribble around the goals and then hit the ball as hard as she could at the goal. And I'd desperately try and keep out of the way. But we because we set some goals, we then set some drills that we'd work on, which would help her achieve those goals. And we set 2 nights a week. It was in between training, so we weren't overtraining. And it just that consistency, the goal setting, and having a bit of a plan really made a difference. One of the things that Cori's mentioned about brilliant basics, and it's on this slide, is one of the cornerstones of the initial thinking I had with Cori. So, what I asked Cori at one point was, why were some of the girls being picked up in academy level versus not being picked up? And she said they are brilliant at the basics. And that's why we got a whole section called Brilliant Basics on the site. But the brilliant basics are just practicing technique. That's what Cori meant, was the technique of curling a ball, of first touch, of receiving the ball in the air, all those sort of little things that you think everyone can do naturally. We never practice them, because if once you've done it once, you think you've completed it. The reality is you've got to keep practicing all those brilliant basics, so they just become second nature in a game environment. So with Emily, we kind of did 2 of those every time we went up the field. We would just choose a couple of things, and we'd spend 10 minutes practicing the basics before we got into anything else. So yeah, that's just from a parent point of view. That's what I did, and it definitely made a difference. So yeah, from that, going from the physical side of it into the sort of mindset side of things, over to you again, Cori.
Yeah, so again, it says like mindset wins matches. It's accurate. I think you prepare throughout the week for this game, and I think you have to believe that you are there for a reason. You're there for a reason because you're good, and you have to have that self-belief, that positive self-belief. You have to have that ingrained in you. And don't get me wrong, sometimes your positive self-belief might be really, really high and peaked, and sometimes it might be really, really low. But what gets you out of those low moments is that self-belief that you are here for a reason. You're here because you are good enough. That's the reality. And that could be at grassroots. That could be at the highest end in an England shirt or Welsh shirt or another nation. You've got to have that self-belief. And I think that is huge. That is super, super huge. And it also helps with setbacks in your career. Listen, careers take different diversions and different paths, and it all happens for a reason. And you've got to be open to allowing those to happen. It might not necessarily be what you want at times, but the elite mind says, listen, that's a little diversion. The next chance I'm going to get, I'm going to take it. The next club I'm going to be at, I'm going to work the hardest. The next chance I get in front of goal, I'm going to score it. And that elite mindset allows you to keep on developing, keep pushing, keep being positive all the time. And like I said, you've trained for that moment. You've trained for the moment. So go and enjoy it. Go and enjoy those moments. We always talk about what went well in a game. So WWW, you might see it. What went well? I think that's really useful to use when you are talking about your own game, your Teams game, speaking with your parents in the car. And a terminology that we also like to use is even better if. It's not a negative. You didn't do anything wrong. It's a learning opportunity for you. And that's how we have to rephrase things. It's even better if. Even better if. What could you have done better there? And explain that, have those organic conversations. And it's really, really helpful for your mental health and your mental well-being, for sure. I think, again, managing emotions is huge. We always, whenever we play football, we always measure ourselves. And if you're at the early stages of your career and you, for whatever reason, you're not starting and your best friend is, and XYZ, I just think, don't measure yourself. Don't measure yourself. Just go and do what the team needs. Go and do whatever the team needs and be that player. Be that player who can transform a team when you come on, when you get that opportunity. Ask the coach, what can I do to get time? What can I do to improve my game? What does the team need? And I think that's really, really key to have that growth mindset, because coaches love that. And it goes back to that key point that Paul said before. Coaches love coachable players. They really, really do. And in whatever capacity that is, that might be your off-pitch learning. That might be your on-pitch learning. That might be, it could be anything. It could be your background, what you're doing at school. It's just having those organic conversations that allow the coach and you to interact and be coachable. I think that's really, really key. That sets elite athletes aside from maybe grassroots. And it says as well, learn to stay calm under pressure. I think Paul hit the nail on the head. Emily's unbelievable at penalties now because she's practiced that so many times with Paul in goal. So yeah, I think staying calm under pressure. I think, Paul, you've got this one with them, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, from a parent point of view, I had to completely change my mindset. Probably when she was about 12. Probably should have done it sooner and wish I had have done. We used to get in the car after a game and I would be the negative ninny that would just say, oh, you didn't do this very well, you didn't do that very well. And I completely had to change that because I could see she was getting despondent and I could see that she wasn't enjoying it as much as she used to be. I kind of completely changed my outlook. So what we would do on the car to training or to a game is that I would say to my daughter, what is it you want to work on today? What are you going to try and achieve? Let's set some targets, some goals. And all I'm going to do is count how many times you do it. So if she might say to me, I'm looking to do 5 successful long range passes in this game, then I'd say, right, I'll count and we'll talk about it after the game. And then after the game, we'd get in the car and I'd say, right, you did 3. And then we'd talk about how they went and any other passes that weren't successful. What could she have done better? So it wasn't a negative conversation. It was her setting an objective that she was trying to achieve. She was then trying to achieve it in the game. And then we were just talking about if it happened, because obviously you can't control what happens in a game. So you might not have the opportunity. But we would talk about it after in that context. So it was all about goal setting. And then after we'd sort of talked about that goal, we'd say, right, what else went well or do you think could have been better in that game? And let's set that as the next game's sort of targets. So it really just changes the mindset into a really positive one, which is I'm just going to try better, or I'm going to try and do that better. And if you can loop in your coach at that point and ask them what your daughter needs to work on, then you can help guide exactly what your daughter. Because if you've got a striker, I can guarantee the first thing that a striker is going to say is, "I want to score 2 goals or 3 goals." Well, it's not just about that. Your coach might say, what I want to see is I want to see you making some runs into a channel. So, actually setting that as an objective might be what you want to do for the next game. So forget about the goals. That will be a byproduct of doing the right things. So yeah, just as a parent, try to be as positive as possible. Cori's told me off a few times along the journey about shouting at my daughter from the sidelines. Trying to get her to do something that was in contradiction to what Cori said. So I would absolutely tell you as parents, don't shout from the sidelines because you might be trying to get your daughter to do one thing, but the coach has told her to do something completely opposite. And then she's confused and then she does neither of those things. What's the priority? What the coach wants. So, trust your coach, ask them what she's supposed to be working on, and then encourage. So yeah, that's my input from a parent. Okay, over to you, Cori, on this one.
Yes, we're going to look at targeted work, and it equals the real advantage. So obviously the first one says focus on position specific skills. Now, I think that all depends where you are in your career, and I can give you an example of this. So like I said, I was privileged to play at quite a high standard. And when I was at Charlton, I used to play against Alex Scott. And obviously when I then went to the first team, I played with Alex Scott, and her position changed dramatically. So when I used to play against Alex when we were in our youth phase, she used to play up front, believe it or not. And she was unbelievable because she possessed such good qualities. She was quick. She was super good in front of goal. And she was tenacious. She really, really was. So actually at youth level, that kind of set her aside to be a really high performing goal scorer. As we gradually went through our careers and I joined Arsenal, I looked over and she's playing right wing. So I scratched my head and I thought, blimey, by golly, I understood, because she still had those characteristics and those attributes that allowed her to be an unbelievable right winger, because she could get forward easily. She could get back easily. She had an unbelievable shot and an unbelievable cross. So it just made sense. As her career went on, she then ended up at right back, and I completely get it. I completely get it. And I can see that absolute journey throughout her career and the rationale behind it. She possesses, let's face it, the game changes as well. So the requirements of those positions change throughout our careers, throughout our journeys. So now you're looking at a right back who is attacking, who can score goals, who can cross, who is super quick, who is tenacious, who is unbelievable out of possession. And now you're looking at a total end product of one of the best right backs that England's ever had, and probably the world. And that's all because she was allowed to be exposed in multiple positions throughout her journey. So when we say let's practice on and focus on position specific skills, I think it's really important that yes, you do, but that all is dependent on where your career is and where you're at in your career. I think it's really important that we interchange with those positions and skills, because it will help you out later on in your life. It really, really will. Having said that, I was born a centre back. That's the reality. I'm a big girl. I was slow. I could read the game well, and I was good with my head. I think I'd be pretty useless anywhere else on the pitch, probably other than goal. So yeah, I think for me, position specific information earlier on in my career was really, really useful, because I then learnt my trade at an early age. And the skills that you probably get at a centre back, you can use them elsewhere, but I knew that that was where I was going to play. I think when you look at the next one as well, the way that the game is going now, you have to be technically good, tactically good. But I think now we're looking at real athletes, and I think this needs to be incorporated as early on as in a player's career as possible. So at the earliest age, we really, really want to be working on speed, strength, agility, because it then just allows you, one, for injury prevention, that's the reality, and two, it allows you to be an unbelievable athlete. And then we look at player next to that. Okay, so those fundamentals of lunging, doing plyometrics, they're so handy. It allows you just to perform and execute required movements within the game at the highest level. And I think, again, that is what sets aside elite athletes. They are physically fit, they are physically prepared, they move so well, and they are brilliant at the basics. I think video analysis as well can really, really help. So I think we touched upon it earlier. VO is rife now. Everyone has VO or some sort of recording of their game or training sessions. I think use it to your advantage, because I had a light bulb moment when I was working with the first team. We dabbled with it a little bit throughout my career, but it wasn't big. But I was so lucky to work with an American coach who was hot on analysis. She was unbelievable. And I had a light bulb moment. She put on the first clip and it was 30 seconds. And I think I learned more in that 30 seconds than I have in my whole entire career. And that was watching someone else play football. But the detail that was given in that moment, it was just eye-opening for me. And then I thought to myself, well, use it. Why aren't I telling my girls to use this? Like, why aren't we using this? It is such a cool form of coaching. Essentially, it's such a cool, use of what the player's doing, and allowing her to watch that and then critique it in a positive manner to what could I have done better next time, or what did the team need, or having those organic conversations with teammates and saying, actually, when I get the ball at a right back position, have you ever thought about making this movement as a right winger so then I can play the ball to feet? Or have you thought about making this double movement where you come to feet and actually you draw the left back in, and now, because we've had this conversation, I know the movement you've made, I can play the ball beyond. So it's having those organic conversations whilst using that video analysis. I think it's so key. So if you can do that, that would be absolutely brilliant. And that's what elite players are doing. Okay, so get used to doing it. I think a big one as well is you train with your club once, twice a week. And I think when you talk about like jobs, it's a full-time job being a professional athlete. It is a full-time job. And I think when you look at your mum and dad, or whoever your carer is, they go to work full-time. That's a lot of hours a week that they're putting into a job. And if you want this to be your job, you want to be an elite performer, you have to be willing to put those hours in. You have to. And that is not just with the ball at your feet. It's doing those extra runs, those extra sprints, those extra sessions on analysis, those extra gym sessions, strength and conditioning. It's so important. And that is all about targeted work.
Yeah, I think again, from a parent point of view, we always have to sort of balance the training side of it with school and education, and that's always a priority. And I know the English FAs and all FAs are very hot on the fact that currently, even if you're a professional female footballer, the chances are when your career finishes, you need to have another career that expands after that. So education is really hot. So it's just, as a parent, it's about balancing time. You as a parent won't have endless amounts of time to spend practicing with your daughter. So kind of decide when you're going to do it, and then use it wisely. So don't just do random things. Sort of have a plan. Work on aspects of your daughter's game, or the things that she wants to work on. Keep it fun, absolutely, but really target what you're doing, and work on things that your daughter feels that she wants to improve on as well. But don't be too specific about the position that she plays in currently. If she's probably even at under 16, her position is not set. And if she can only play one position, there's going to be a real challenge for you to get into a pro club if they've already got people in that position. So if you can play in multiple positions, you've got all the attributes of technique and skill and speed, and you can play multiple positions, you've got a much better chance of getting into an elite program. But don't be so set on a specific position. Again, if I think about Emily, when she started playing initially at Charlton under 10s, she was playing as a forward winger. And at the time, the coach said she's going to be a centre back. And I was like, I couldn't see it. I just could not see it. She didn't like tackling people, so I couldn't see how she was ever going to be a defender. Lo and behold, she's now playing in the under 21s at London City Lionesses, and she's a centre back. Don't know kind of how he saw that under 10, but he obviously saw some attributes that she had, which may well be sort of determination and yes, a bit of speed and technical ability. But it's don't be set on that. That's all I'd say. Your position is going to change, guarantee it. And every environment that Emily's been in, she's played in different positions because they want to see her in put under pressure. Cori used to play her as left back because she's right-footed, so she wanted to improve her left-footed passing. So Cori always used to play as a left back. Initially, Emily hated it, but eventually she kind of understood that actually she could now play with both feet. It didn't matter where she was on the pitch. Don't be too set in your ways, is all I'd say. So you've got a bit of a poll for parents now. So what would be most helpful to you right now as a football parent? Let me fire up the poll, which is this one. So if you sort of select what's going to be most important to you as a parent, the reason we're asking this question is really just getting an idea from you as a parent what content might be useful for you to support your daughter, and will help shape us what we do on She Plays Football. So it also gives us a break from hearing our voices. So a couple more seconds. Okay, that's pretty much everyone. So top one, understanding the pathway. That's our next section. So I'm glad that's up there as something you want to know about. We'll try and explain that a little bit. Mental resilience tips. Look, everyone's different. In reality, we've got what we call a knowledge hub on She Plays Football. That's very much about the psychology of football. So I definitely encourage you to go on, have a look at the Knowledge Hub, and look at our psychology section. It just gives you some tips and some guidelines and things like that that will help you with that. Training at home advice. That's really why She Plays Football exists, if I'm honest. So I don't want to keep bringing it back to that, but ultimately we set it up because me as a parent, I needed some help. I didn't know what to do with my daughter in the times that we'd set aside for me to help her train. And if you look at the resources that are out there, obviously you've got YouTube. Most of the stuff on YouTube is very difficult to find in one place. Most of it's men teaching boys. So it's not exactly inspiring for your daughter. But there really wasn't anywhere that was a central hub for you to kind of help and support your daughter. And that's what we've created at She Plays Football. So, we've got 70 or so drills, probably another 30 that we're about to launch. We've got 5 or 6 programs, I think. So programs are like 4-week training programs. Some are position specific. There's one on there at the moment around pre-season sort of strength and conditioning, stuff like that. So the reality is training at home, you actually just need to set a bit of time aside and have a bit of a plan. And we're trying to make that easy for you as parents because we know your time's precious. So rather than have to go and search it, that's what we exist to kind of provide you with. Anyway, I'll stop sharing that now, and get back to the presentation. So, as I said, the next section is understanding the pathway from grassroots to academy and to sort of first team. Now, I know we've got some people from Scotland and Wales on the call. So it's not exactly like this in Scotland and Wales, but it's pretty much the same. Obviously, both Cori and I are based in England, and we know this is a pathway we know well. But we will be putting some stuff on our platform about how it differs across the different places in the UK, really. But this is a mixture of FA funded programs. So Wildcats is FA funded. Emerging Talent Centres is FA funded. The Pro Game Academies are FA funded. The Discover My Talent program is a program. And you've obviously then got the England national team, which is FA funded. And what the whole FA programs are there to do is to create a talent pool for the women's lionesses. But in between that, you've got grassroots clubs that are running teams and playing matches. You have player development centres that are almost like technique schools, and sometimes they'll run a match program, but often it will be sort of group development So you do that on top of being part of a team. As I say, you then got emerging talent centres, and that is about trying to identify early girls that have potential. So it's an FA program, and it's usually, I know it says 8 to 16 on there because that's the range that you can have, but most of them tend to be under 8s and under 10s, because they're trying to identify talent early to bring into sort of other programs. In between emerging talent centres and the professional game academy, which is the second in the hierarchy from the top, that's club run. So what that means is the FA don't fund it. They fund the emerging talent centres and the pro game academies, and anything in between is run by a club. So I'll give you an example of Crystal Palace. So Crystal Palace do run a pro game academy. They also run emerging talent centres, but they also have development centres, so player development centres, but that's club run and funded. You also have pro club academies. So that's not, there's a huge thing in the FA at the moment about organisations that call themselves academies, and they're trying to stop it. You can only really be an academy if you're affiliated to a professional club. That's the thing to say. So anyone else that's not affiliated to a professional club isn't an academy other than in name. So yeah, pro club academies and club academies exist, and they're good programs run by good coaches. So none of these are things you should ignore. They're stepping stones ultimately. But the pinnacle of the FA funded program is what they call the Pro Game Academy at the top, or second from the top on the slide. There's 20, well, it says 21, but some clubs had a grace period. If you're a WSL club or a WSL2 club, you have to run a Pro Game Academy as part of your license criteria. It's FA funded. There's tier 1 and tier 2. And everything that's underneath it should be working towards trying to get your daughter into a pro game academy. They're typically under 16s and under 21s, and they're the stepping stones to become a player in the club's first team and or be identified by England to play in their national teams. So that's really where the England national teams are being pulled from, is girls that are in the pro game academies. So that's kind of the basic structure of the UK pathway, some of which is FA funded. So as I say, emerging talent centres, well, Weetabix Wildcats and pro game academies are FA funded. Everything else is funded by clubs or by organisations that aren't affiliated to clubs. None of them are wrong. They're all stepping stones. And I would say that your daughter and you should always be aspiring to trial at the next level up. And the reason I would say that is because you may be good enough to be selected. That's obviously the stepping stone that you want. But equally, you might go to a trial and not get it in, but you can look at what you're competing against, and you can see where you need to kind of aspire to be in order to be selected next year. The pro game academies, it's a bit, once you get in, it's a good place to be. They often give you 2-year contracts. They're not paid contracts, they're 2-year contracts. So when you're at age 15, if you get into pro game academy, and that normally comes from the club run academies and people that come in on trial at that level. So you'll go to a trial at pro game academy, or you'll already be in the club and they promoted you into it. If you get selected, the first year you get a 2-year contract. So that's usually under 16. So you're 15, 16, you know that you're in that program. Then when it comes to progressing post under 16, they may offer you a contract or they may release you. But again, if you're kept on, or you come in at a trial phase and you get selected at that point, you get a 2-year contract. So that's kind of how it works. So hopefully that kind of explains what's out there. Wherever you are at the moment, it should be about having fun, developing. Your coach should be giving you guidance and pointers, and you should feel that you're getting better every time you go to a coaching session. And then it's about what you do outside of those coaching sessions to really progress. You know, it's it's the training you do at home. It might be one-to-one training that you, if you can afford to do that, that you might want to do. It might be some development center group training that you might want to do. All of it is going to help you improve and get better. And all I would say is just encourage you to aspire to the next level at every opportunity, and don't be afraid to go and trial. I haven't talked about Discover My Talent program actually, but that's a program that the FA introduced to identify talent that hadn't been scouted so far. So you can put your daughter forward to be in that program, and just search the FA site for that. And the coach or the club that she plays for have to endorse that application. So you can't just say, I think my daughter's brilliant, I'm going to put her forward. It has to be also endorsed by the club and her coach. But they then invite you to a session. They've got multiple sessions around the country to the talent ID program. If they think that you have potential, they will then keep an eye on you and invite you back to other training sessions, try to progress you to a point where you would then enter a pro game academy at the right age. And usually that program's open to under 14s. So it's sort of a precursor to you getting into the pro game academy. Hopefully that was useful. But that's broadly and specific elements of the girls' pathway in England. As I say, it will be slightly different in Scotland, Wales, and Ireland, but they're all following a similar sort of process. Cori, do you want to talk about Lena? And we've got another example.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, like Paul said in the graphic before, that is a graphic of a traditional pathway for a football player in England. It doesn't always go to plan. You may flip between segments of that graphic throughout your whole entire journey. That's the reality. And I think if you look at these two players that we're going to show you now, Lena being one, she didn't have the traditional pathway. She started or got into Tottenham when she was 16. She then progressed into the first team, and she's an England international now, but she didn't have that foundation under her the traditional way. So you can still make it as a professional footballer, not following a traditional way. It makes it 10 times easier if you do, because that graphic is there for a reason. It helps. And if you want to play at the top level, it helps to have that foundation. But for instance, our next graphic is Maya Letitia. If you live in a area like Guernsey, you're never going to be able to travel, or your parents are never going to be able to travel to get you to a pro game academy. That's the reality. So she started her journey late as well, and she still got fundamental development, probably through playing boys or playing girls or being exposed to different environments, which is also key to your development. So don't be sad, or I don't know, despondent that you are not on the correct pathway, because things change, and doors can open and doors can close. And another one as well, going into trials, like expose yourself to those environments. They're super cool. You learn from different coaches in different environments that expose you to different positions, different players, different environments. Expose yourself to trials. They're super, super cool. But yeah, it's never too late. Trust me, it's never too late. I still might get a contract. Wait.
Yeah, we're getting to the end, and just conscious of time, and we want to do a little bit of a Q&A at the end. So we'll kind of whiz through this section. So again, this isn't necessarily exactly the same in Scotland, Wales, Ireland, but this is the English FA four-corner model. So the reason we wanted to put this up is for parents and players to sort of think about what every session you go to is trying to achieve. It will have an element of technical ability. They will, a good coaching environment is always going to talk about the psychological aspects of the game and try and work on creativity and communication and the confidence on the ball, all those sorts of things. Every session should be fun. It should be an interaction with your teammates. You if you want to have a great team, ultimately, it's a team game, football. So if you're just an isolated individual within a team, not playing your role within that team environment, it's going to shine through. And guess what? Probably you won't get the ball passed to you, which means you won't be able to show what you can do anyway. So look, just make a really strong play for the social aspects of the game. And of course, as Cori said earlier, physical aspect is more and more prevalent. The game's getting quicker, more physical in its nature, and as players, you need to be working on all aspects of this. So this is actually what they teach you on the FA Level 1 badge I did. And I wanted a manual that said, how do you put all this together to a load of different training videos? It doesn't exist. So they teach you how to build out a training drill that ticks all four of these quadrants. So yeah, as I say, it didn't quite give me what I wanted, but it did give me an appreciation of when I now watch a coach coaching a team, I know what aspect they're working on that day. And as parents and as players, be conscious of this four quadrant model. If you want to know more about it, go onto the English FA and put in the four quadrant model, and it will come up and explain what it's all about. But basically, every player needs to be great in all of these areas, and that's what all coaches are aspiring to achieve. So really, as a bit of a something that is pretty dear to my heart, which is what can we do as parents to support our daughter? If you wrap all that, everything we've talked about together, think about it as before the game or training. Be a teammate. Ask questions about goal setting or what she wants to try and achieve, or what has she done at training that she's going to try and do in a match environment, or things like that. Help her create a plan that she owns and tracks, and it's not just your expectation as a parent, because she has to buy into what she wants to achieve, and support. We're as parents, we're there to support. So make sure you do that during the game. Observe, as I said earlier, don't shout from the sidelines. I've been in a situation where I was actually running a club at one point, and we asked a parent not to attend games because it was upsetting not only his daughter but everyone else on the team. So please don't shout from the side. Let the coach coach. You may have an expectation of what she should be doing, but the coach may ask her to do something else. The coach is always right. So observe, don't direct. And after the game, reframe and reflect. If it was a tough match, just say, look, God, they were good. Accept they were good. And how do you think you did against that team? They're the best team we played all year. How do you think you did? And let your daughter talk about it. It's not for you to kind of tell her how you think she did. You want to hear from her, really, and then almost have a loop around here. So the next time, whatever you talked about after the game, it's almost sort of say, well, what did you learn? What can we do next time? What are we going to do in the next game? And then that becomes the before the game for the next game, ultimately. So I would encourage you as parents. I'm not here to tell you how to be a parent. I'm just giving you advice that I think I've seen work, and hopefully you can take on board, really. So, final poll for your daughter. Let me just fire this one up. So it's a bit of a poll for your daughter. What do you want to get better at for next season? You might need to scroll down to get the full options, but have a select the ones that you want to work on, and remember what you select actually, because obviously we are not holding you to account on this, but you should hold yourself account to it. So if you do say passing, if that's what your objective for the next season is, hatch a plan that's going to help you with your passing. Do some drills regularly that are going to help you with your passing. If it's something else, do that, but at least have a plan. So do remember what you've selected. pretty much everyone's done that now. So I'll end the poll and share the results. So the top one was ball manipulation and staying confident. I would wholeheartedly agree with that. Would you, Cori?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That it comes back to what I said earlier about when I asked Cori about what makes a great player. That ball manipulation, that first touch, that kind of ability to kind of control the ball and use it well is if you can master that, then the game's easy. Easier, not easy, easier. Great. As I say, just remember what you said, and then set that as your objective, and try and work on that for the next season. Okay. So as I said, I want to have a bit of a Q&A. So we've talked a lot about the various aspects of this kind of webinar, but I'm going to open up a Q&A, and if you've got some questions that you'd like to ask, kind of feel free. Jo, who works for She Plays Football, she's been looking at any questions that have come in so far. So she's going to pose a few questions, and Cori's going to be put on the spot. So if you've got some questions you'd like to ask on what we presented, please go to the Q&A section and right away, really.
Cool. So hi guys. So I've been busy looking at all your questions that have been popping up, and there's still lots more coming in. Hot topic at the moment, Cori, is trials. So there's been quite a few questions on those. We'll start with Lola's question. Is it true coaches form an opinion about a player within the first 5 minutes of seeing them? And what do you look for in that moment?
It's such a tricky one. Like, again, every coach is different. Every environment is different. I think if you are a established coach, or a coach that's been around a long, long time, and you've done many, many, many trials, you tend to have an idea of who potentially could be a good player. It's not a fixed mindset. We're not a fixed mindset. We don't make our mind up as soon as you get out of the car, she's in, she's out. That's not how it works. We just have an idea. It normally stems back to, we've probably seen you before, whether you've trialed at a younger age or you've been in our environment in whatever capacity that is. But 9 times out of 10, we have seen you. And don't be alarmed. Our mind is forever changing, forever changing. We might think that one player is good in one session, and then we invite her back for another session, and unfortunately she isn't as good in that particular session. It doesn't mean she's not a good player. It doesn't mean to say that we're not going to accept her. It is just sometimes what the team needs, what our environment needs. There's loads of contributing factors. So don't be alarmed. Some coaches can make their mind up within the first 5 minutes, but it's highly unlikely.
Cool.
I've just seen sorry, Jo, I'm just going to cut across you there. I've just seen a question from Neil, whose daughter is a goalkeeper who went to a trial, thought she did well, felt that they were going to get a call back and didn't, and it obviously it's hurt his daughter that she hasn't got through. I don't know why that would be the case, but of course you've got to remember that, as you quite rightly pointed out, Neil, that they may already have their quota of goalkeepers on the books, and for you to dislodge somebody that's already in place, you've got to be not just their equivalent, you've got to be better than them. So it's really difficult to know what you're up against in a trial, and all you can do is do your best and don't get despondent if it's not your time now. You can go again. We've, as I said, I ran what has now become the London City Lionesses academy for 3 years, and trials are a minefield. But I stood next to. We never made a decision. It was always the coach's decision about who got in, and listen to the debate that goes on, and they think long and hard, coaches, about who they take on, and there's so many aspects to it. We mentioned coachability early on. My top advice would be never strop at a trial. Listen, take on board instruction, try to apply it. Do your best in the trial. Turn up ready to do your best. That mentality of it. But unfortunately, there's so many other aspects. Like, we've already got 2 players in that position or 3 players in that position. What we're really looking for is somebody in a different position, and your daughter might not fit that position. So please don't be despondent. it's a tough environment, unfortunately, when you get to that level.
Yeah, I would agree as well. I'll just jump in as well. Like, obviously being a coach and selecting players on the back end of that, just because you didn't get in at that particular environment doesn't mean to say you're not a good goalkeeper. That's unfair to say. You are probably a high performing goalkeeper, and it's just by unfortunate circumstances that they may have 2 or 3 goalkeepers. And when you're in an environment that is elite, you're looking at potentially dislodging a England international, and that's the reality, or an international of some sort. And it's super tough, but keep knocking at the door. Keep knocking at the door. There is the 2 girls that I mentioned previously. There's no age cap on becoming a pro. That's the reality. So keep knocking at that door, keep doing the right things, keep turning up to training, keep being polite, keep being coachable, be a sponge, and listen, you'll make it for sure.
Thanks, Cori. We've got another question from Chris, actually. His daughter's 12. She's very strong, sort of technically and tactically as well, and performs really well in matches. But she's gone to quite a few trials, and they all seem to be very much based around physical attributes. And she's never really been selected, despite performing really well in the trial and during a match. And she's getting quite disheartened. So how do we get around that?
I'll give you another. Sorry, Cori. I'll give you something that's a bit galling, actually. And Joe's heard me talk about this before, but when my daughter was at Charlton under 10s, they wanted big physical girls, and as parents, we were invited in because they wanted to see how tall the parents were to get a gauge of how tall the daughter would be in the future, which just blew my mind because she was under 10. I mean, God knows how tall she would be. But that's what they were looking for. So that the physical attributes is a difficult one. Depends how old your daughter is. Oh, she's 12, right? Okay. So I Cori may have a different view of this, but at 12, it's more about kind of technique. At that age, you're not fully developed. They've got no idea how physically strong you're going to be. But some clubs just have a view that they're looking for tall girls that are physically strong over technical ability. So maybe that club's not right for her. So don't be afraid to trial at different places. The problem you've got is usually location. So if the team that's closest to you is looking for physical girls, it's always going to be a bit of a struggle, and you might have to travel a little bit further to get a club that's actually looking for technical ability. Ultimately, you'll need both as you progress.
Yeah, agreed. And I think if physically is an area that you can improve in whatever capacity, I think your super strength then becomes your technical ability, and you have to be technically so unbelievable. So if you can continuously work at that aspect of your game, I can't understand why some coaches may allow an unbelievable, technically gifted player miss out on an opportunity in their environment. So yeah, listen, again, I say it all the time, when one door shuts, another one opens, and that environment probably isn't right for your daughter, but another one will, and she'll thrive and strive in that environment. And she's good enough to do so. So again, keep knocking those doors, keep exposing yourself to those environments. You have to, because it comes down to that mindset, that self-belief. I am good enough, you are good enough, and you will become a pro. That's a reality.
Paul, this one is a question for you, really, because I know you've been through the process, but which companies do you recommend for getting a full ride US college scholarship?
Yeah, we're sort of going through that at this point with Emily as an option. Obviously, her preferred option is to get a pro contract at London City Lionesses, but we'll see whether that happens. But if that doesn't happen, yeah, we're looking at universities in the UK and we're looking at universities in the US. We're working with Soccer Assist. They've been good. We put her final profile up a week ago. She got her first interest from a club yesterday. From a university yesterday. One I've never even heard of, but that doesn't mean it's a bad program. So yeah, I can recommend Soccer Assist. We'll probably do a blog post on this coming up, because I know it's a route that lots of girls take. Give you the London City Lionesses under 21s program. They had sort of 2 age groups in it. So first year, so that was sort of 16, they just turned sort of 16, 17. And then there was sort of 17, 18, and a couple of sort of 19-year-old girls. Everybody that was second year has gone off to the States to play football. Every single one of them. They all use different companies. So what I'll do is I'll get a list of companies together. We'll do a blog post and we'll post it on social. So yeah, as I say, I can recommend one because I use it, but those other girls could probably recommend the ones that they use as well. So it won't be exhaustive, but we'll do a blog post and hopefully that will answer that question.
Cool, thank you. Just one more, tips for challenging top players to keep pushing them.
Again, I always look at who is playing in my position in the WSL, and I always look at their game and I think, what are they doing that I'm not? And that would be my little go-to to try and develop me and elevate me to their level, because they're playing in the highest league. So that would be my top tip. Definitely look at whoever's playing in your position professionally and try and copy them, because they're doing really well.
Cool. We've got time for one more, Paul?
Yeah, go for it.
Cool. So Helen asks around sort of trying to move to a more challenging training playing environment means going up a step in the pathway. Getting an academy trial requires you to have an academy experience elsewhere. How can you get on a trial as the decision making is based on what you put on the form? Can moving into a ladies team at under 16 help whilst trying to get into a PGA?
Yeah, you're of an age, if you're that under 16 age group, it's a really tough age group, really tough, because as I said earlier, if you PGA's under so the first year of a PGA under 16s team, you get a 2-year contract. So depending how complete their program is, if they're all first years, there's not really many spots in the second year. Most clubs try to have half and half. So half first years, half second years in that age group, so that they've always got half the team being replenished, if you like, with talent. It is really tough. Some clubs will do open trials and then they'll do invite-only trials. And if you get through the open trials, you get to the invite-only section. And then there might be a third trial, which is existing players and players that have come through that trial process. So you're right, it is quite difficult now, which is a byproduct of the way they've set the PGAs up. Because people have got 2-year contracts, it limits the amount of flexibility a team's got. And if you're signed to a 2-year contract, you can't even go and trial elsewhere. So you're sort of almost stuck in that PGA environment. It's not a bad thing usually, but if you're not enjoying it, it's a bad thing. So yeah, potentially going and playing under 16s in a women's environment could be the answer. And then the other thing potentially is reaching out to the coaches, but it's a tough ask. Look, the problem with the PGA structure is it is the top of the funnel. So if you're running an under 16 PGA, you've probably got 20 players, half of which are on a 2-year contract. So there's 10 spots, and usually half of those spots will be filled by girls that are coming through the club academy structure that's underneath it. So you might only be looking for 6 players, and if your daughter's not in that position, you're definitely not going to get in. So it is really, really tough. But there are some really good teams that have invested in their women's program outside of the PGA. So if you look at tier 3 clubs, tier 4 clubs, they're all investing heavily in good coaching, good facilities, and could be a stepping stone. It doesn't mean you can't bypass the PGAs and just get signed straight into a first team.
Yeah, I think I'll jump in as well quickly, because I was PGA London City under 16s, and rightly so, they're on a 2-year contract. However, I had a girl reach out and just say, look, can I trial? And we just said, yeah, why not? Why not? Let's expose her to our environment. She's had the confidence to express her interest. Let's expose her to her environment. Lo and behold, we ended up signing her. She was on a 10-week trial process. The commitments were absolutely horrendous because training four times a week, 4 nights a week, a game on a Saturday. The player had never been exposed to that, but during that window of opportunity, which we call it, she was so successful. She just like ducked water in an environment. Basically, it was a no-brainer for us to take her on. So don't be scared to reach out to clubs. The worst case, they say no. The best case, they'll say, yeah, come in for a week or a 2 week or whatever it may look like. But don't be scared to ask. You may as well.
The other thing, which we said earlier on about so many clubs now have VO cameras.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to put together a little bit of a reel and send it in. You never know. If you can send a little reel of your daughter doing some amazing things in her position and then looking for that position, you just never know. So yeah, it's a minefield. I wish we could, have the answer for everyone on that. But yeah, I'm going to stop now because we are 15 minutes over time, and I know everyone's got things they'd probably rather be doing on a Sunday. So just to kind of wrap up, and we want to kind of finish with a little bit of an inspiration moment. So for all the things we've said, 2035 is the Women's World Cup and it's in the UK. So that's 10 years away. So who's going to be in the Lionesses team 10 years away? Probably Aggie Beaver-Jones, maybe. But she'll be coming to the end of her career, possibly. Some of the older players will have retired by that point. So probably the girls that are going to be in that team, they're training today in parks, gardens, schools, cages, fields. Potentially your daughter or your friend or even you. So 10 years to train, 10 years to believe, 10 years to prove it could be you. And we're here for the journey. So I wish you every success in wherever football takes you. If we can play a small part in your development along the way, then that's all we aim to do. And parents, if we can give you the tools to really help you support your daughter to achieve everything she'd aspire to do, then that's what we're here for. And hopefully you've enjoyed the webinar. Hopefully you've learned something. Hopefully what we've said has been interesting. And we will be sending out a little feedback form because if you've enjoyed it, we'll do more of it. And if you haven't, we might not put ourselves through the stress again. So no, thank you for your time. It's been much appreciated. And yeah, wish you well.
Thank you, guys.